some thoughts that are uh, to make sense of the hyper uh, relevancy of a matter. There's a natural inescapability of certain things that some of it's benign and some of it is nefarious. And because we have a hard time rooting out the nefarious, we often want to throw everything away because of how much it hurts. Right? This is what 2020 is. 2020 is irreconcilable irreconcilable differences of legacies of two different kinds of people that came from two different kinds of ways of life, and that is all inherent to family and blood and everything else. And you're gonna have the matter of, quote, founding fathers, right? Founding fathers, founding mothers, so on and so forth, right? The Bach saga establishes the family of the first Ra and the first Maya. And sorry, just making fancy maneuvers because I can't make a left out of that lot. It would take me 10 minutes. So, the Bach saga kind of, because the Bach saga, because the story starts from an absolute beginning and it's telling it's a family tree oriented mythological story. Right? It is literally the mythology, the personal, private mythology of the Bach family itself, which has preserved its line since the beginning, right? And that's the claim of Eeyore's women of the family, who weaved their telling of the tale into him, and the life he had to live to inherit the discipline to be this last voice of his line. I wonder why Eeyore never had children, right? It's tragic that he had no children, right? There isn't another Bach. That at least there isn't another Bach from this side of Bach, as far as we know. I am certain that at the very least, someone who doesn't even know their Bach, and those blood codes will get activated, right? And it'll take a process of validation, a deep, long, hard process that can be verified and validated, right? This is part of ancestral blood code readings. That's a certain kind of practice, which has nothing to do with biology. It's partly an astrological reading from my basic comprehension of it. Part of it, as such. Oh, I look like a WWE wrestler because I live in the Stamford, Connecticut area, and therefore everybody in Stamford is a wrestler. Did you know that? Like, the WWE has always been the biggest fucking thing in Stamford that anybody ever cared about, with the exception of what was that fucking UBS Warburg, which doesn't fucking really have fucking business anymore. But anyway. So anyway. I warn you, if you start trolling me or start fucking referring to my talent for driving and live streaming in the negative, you will be removed from the fucking channel. That's a promise. Well, granted, I may not catch it, but you know, I might catch it. I might catch it when I'm at a stop sign or pulled over or something like that. So you best behave, because obviously you want to be here, right? Right? That's the theory. The theory is you all want to be here. Want to. And of course, there's a certain amount of joy that one gets from participating in the conversation, and we feel isolated and alienated, rejected and rebuked and rebuted when we are punished for our words. And the removal of free speech hurts, doesn't it? Oh, it certainly does. And you know what? You know what? Free speech is also my right to have sacred space for speech that I approve of in the atmosphere of the conversation. This is why private clubs exist and so on and so forth. And in my soapbox time, I have authority over the content of what happens here. I am pseudo-responsible for what you say, especially if I choose to do chat replay. And people gotta fucking see your mouthy little fucking stupid bitchy comments, right? So be cool and figure out what my channel is about. So yeah. So the example that I popped into my head, which said, I'm gonna go live because I was just thinking about this, right? Philadelphia, we all know that philo is about love. And, you know, so you put philo as a prefix, and there's an inherent presumption of love, right? And so the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. But that's Delphi is in Delphia. Philadelphia, right? So there's the Delphi element. Are you crossing this? What the hell are you doing, buddy? He was gonna cross the street. But anyway, so Delphi was an important place in classic Greece with the oracle that everybody knew and loved. Like, you know, this bitch said it was gonna rain, it was gonna fucking rain, right? That's what these ladies did. They were fucking perfect at it, right? It was a major cornerstone of the consciousness of their nation, of their civilization, right? Was this thing. And, you know, it is now known that Delphi is associated with the serpent. Because that serpent is part and parcel of this power in which the ladies divined. And back then, there were probably still a handful more fucking sea monster types that still existed. You know, ocean cryptids. Big Godzilla type motherfuckers that, you know, we think we may have some of these fucking kaiju fucking running around in the depths, in the deep, underneath the ice of not so much Antarctica, because it's a continent or an ice wall, but more so, I think, in the North Atlantic. You know, way up, not even, I guess, like the North Atlantic's all, like all these seas are connected, right? But, you know, the up at the north, where it's really frozen this time of year. You know, Alaska's having fun. You know, they're already in a horrid winter at this point. They're probably about 2 months ahead of us in weather. That far up, knocking on Russia's door. I think we fucking forget that Russia's our neighbor. Russia's our literal neighbor because of the Alaska Purchase. And Alaska's bigger than fucking Texas. It's a big fucking deal, despite the fact that nobody fucking lives there. So, Delphi, right? And then this is the place that conceives of America. And, you know, that city was founded by people and named by people via its founding. And they didn't base that, on, they didn't base it on Christianity. You know, that's for sure, right? A family sat there and, you know, intelligent people that knew language, and they felt it was quite the appropriate thing to name this place after Delphi in Greece, right? You know, and we understand this, you know, our founding fathers gave us the inheritance of a neoclassical nation, right? They wanted our culture to be, you know, basically like, you know, Greco-Judean. Pretty much like we were supposed to be like a Greco-Judean culture or something to that effect. And I say Judean just because you know, they didn't you know, the Masons is really why. You know, because Masonry, you know, Masonry does have an esoteric, deeply esoteric, partly occulted, absolute connection to all the big builder civilizations going back. You know, and you can kind of see a semblance of their mark, and that I think that they were working on perfecting that mark. And to what ends, when they were the absolute pioneers of architecture and building design in general and technology in general, as a kind of secret wizards guild almost. I think you understand, you know, what I'm, you know, trying to imply here, right? So we inherit like everything that isn't that, but is within this country, right? You know, like you take no ownership as an American. Say you live in Philly, like homie's 5 minutes from Philly, right? You got nothing to do with that fucking conspiracy, but everything in your world is in the state that it's in because of its neighboring relationship to Philadelphia and what Philadelphia's influence is on the greater area because of the economy and family and travel and other just living your life situations, right? And I think we're gonna drive ourselves mad if we get that cooped up in the matrixy of it. And you know, because the ultra black pilling has to fucking you have to transcend the black pill at a certain point, right? There's a proper way to take the facts and transmute them, right? It starts in your mind and then it starts to fucking change things, right? Because something happens because you lead your energy field in a different way, and it has a much more dramatic starving effect on the negative element than you have the patience to give yourself credit for. You know? My proof positive of this is fucking going to my state congress in 2010, and I said, you should legalize weed, but I think we should fucking get it medical and decrim because obviously I'm shooting for the moon with legalizing it. And I won. Those things happened. That legislative cycle. My words fucking nailed it. And I was the only guy to put on and for the record the medical marijuana patent that was known in 2010 but suppressed. Now, it took 11 fucking years for it to fucking fully manifest, but by the beginning of 2022, at least. Holy shit. I'm realizing, wait, I heard there was like a legalization thing, like, wait, that's a weed store? That's a weed store? That's a weed store? I walk in. This is like, with the exception of the medical facilities, nobody asks me even for fucking ID. Granted, I have a full fucking beard with a little bit of gray in it, so I certainly look well over 18. And I don't need to look 18. But I do believe that we need to continue to know who the people are, that are part of these conspiracies and everything else. I'm not trying to make a dismissal of it. I'm not trying to say that the only thing you have to do is in your fucking mind, right? And I'm not saying that you might not have to fucking get in a real world fight one day, right? Because too much of this shit also doesn't fucking never fucking wants to fucking put violence on the table, right? This is like there's a fucking rational reason in the world to mention things like war is on the table, nukes are on the table. You're just saying they're on the table. You're not saying you've that you've got a you're saying it's certainly a last resort. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm thinking about using it as a first or even a middle resort. It's a last resort, I promise you. But it's on the table. Right? Depends on how things go. Especially if, things get hot and they don't want to cool down. We got to win this thing. There's virtue that we have to uphold. So, who needs a fair fight when I can just level the battlefield itself? No more mortar strikes hitting 10 guys. How about your whole city? So no, I'm sorry, I'm not looking for an audience that wants to hear that there's never going to be a violent answer. I can't promise you that. Violence is on the table. But it's just on the table, and it's a last resort. Like nuclear weapons. Nothing has to be goddamn fucking special. Nothing has to be special about any of that. But, this is a Second Amendment country, so arms are necessary. But anyway, let us be civil, peaceful gentlemen, shall we? I'd imagine that's what you actually wanted. because the saving grace by the merit of this thing we have published called the Constitution, which I kind of want to say that that there's just a big secret that if you were to tell the American people is the legal truth, they would say, fuck you, you don't change a goddamn thing about the way we are meant to believe it. You're going to just actually do as we believe. Right? And if you know how to be a fucking man, you don't have to fucking vote ever to get the government to fucking behave itself. So, let's just say they come out, because a lot of these gaslighters, a lot of these conspiracy theorist people in the alternative law system, this is what they're trying to do, because they're giving you a harmful way of explaining this. All right? Sometime either after the War of 1812 or after the American Civil War, the U.S. Constitution as we know it from 1780, whatever our founding year was, like, whenever the Constitution was ratified, not the Deck of Independence, which is what all this fucking Pluto return nonsense has been about. At some time after that point, the actual infrastructure that was the authority for the original constitutional document was defeated in one of those conflicts. Okay? And then replaced with everything that proceeded, most in particular after the Civil War, with the nationalization of Washington, D.C., right? Which was the Act of 1871, I think. So, long story short, your psychic field keeps the authority of the Constitution alive because it is your belief in the virtues of that document being self-evident, not because you were sold some fucking propaganda about how great it is, but by your own personal rational ability, which is what Ayn Rand was like about it, as well as just your inner authority, listening to your higher self, listening to your heart, your gut instincts. You know what's up, and you have your right to also criticize and say things should be done a little bit differently. Right? But ultimately, the reason why we keep that original document as such is because it's in a museum, is because that's no longer a valid document. If it was a valid document, it would be what is referenced all day long, specifically. Like, judges would have to say, here in the original document, right, with the Old English and the whole 9 yards, and they would fucking have it in a place where it's got easy access for the Supreme Court to reference it in the precisity of what it says. But no, everything goes down to republications. We don't refer to that document itself. We refer to a fresh copy of that document, rewritten in modern English instead of being preserved, written in the old English that we spelled it in. We changed all that. And they buried the conversation about changing the writing system in this country. Where's the history? Like, nobody talks about why we stopped doing the whole FS thing. The Kampfesfufen or whatever, right? Was this, like, how did we fucking really speak if that's the way we fucking spelled it? This is why there's merit to the quote Tartaria thing, right? The Antiquitech, as I prefer to call it, because not everything is Tartaria, but Tartaria was part of an age that was much like a steampunk world. That was, I think, the technology part of it was short-lived. The infrastructure was there and preceded it with the rest of civilization. But I think it hit some sort of Tesla-style height a generation prior, and then that generation fucking annihilated itself in what we pretend called the Civil War, right? And then there was this massive shift, and they made everybody fucking forget key details. And that's why there's such a fucking disconnect from our ways of life, because of how much of an affront and how much they didn't want to see it ever again in the conversation, the democratic process. And they ended it with fucking violence. In a manner that doesn't make sense. You run the details of that, and you look at it, and it's just like, this is the stupidest fucking thing that these people can't get along about, right? And so they needed the racism of American narrative to be uber amplified to completely eclipse whatever fucking reality was also going on about what they were really taking away from us. From these people that had a love for Delphi. That wanted to be the oracles of a new world. Right? But we don't also know whether it was a good thing or not. Right? From everything I know about the Bach saga so far, I'm trying to figure out, like, is there missing information? What, was before all this happened, was tyranny? Did things devolve into tyranny and that part of the story just hasn't been told yet? What influenced the first Ragnarok? Why did the sun fucking say, motherfuckers, I gotta break this up. Sorry guys, party's over. For what fucking reason? That's also like Garden of Eden shit. It's just like Adam and Eve eat the apple. What a stupid fucking rule. And now they're kicked out. That's fucking harsh. What the fuck was that? That was so fucking bad you kicked them out? Right? Right, and everybody imagines that this is what, Lucifer, or, was fucking arguing with God about or something, right? It's just like, what? The humans were fucking lovely. What was fucking wrong with you, you asshole? Right? I'm going down there, I'm taking fire with me, fuck you, right? This is like, and that's supposed to be the Lucifer story, right? It doesn't make fucking sense. It doesn't make any fucking sense, and nobody wants to come forward and say, my theory I can prove. They can only just simply say they have a certain theory, and certain theories are going to say that, it's a euphemism for all sorts of different things, including just they had sex with each other or something like that, right? Still, we are left entirely to reconstructing context and then speculating on if that context is correct to say that my theory is worth publishing on that level of just, we're fucking rationalizing it, right? Because, if we pray to God and say, why do you, because every kid has done this. When they hear the story and they see how kind of, like, God, I don't get it. He just want, knowledge of, why God, right? And then you don't get a fucking answer. You just get the inner voice of your fucking parents, talking to you because of the imprint about some fucking nonsense about obedience. And then that's it. And then that's the Saturnian brick wall of the Kronos side that was adopted into Jehovah, because Jehovah's kind of a Jupiter Kronos kind of merger, at the top to be the father figure, right? But anyway, that's enough of a car stream for me. I think you get my point, right? Is that we've got this very complicated hereditary of people, of very flawed people, of good and terrible intentions, uh, and um, and sometimes we can be no different, but there is also an inheritance of organized evil that is relentless and thinks itself unstoppable. That is until it runs into me. I'll see you guys later.